Right. So we'll continue over here. Um, the Tzarich Lahavin. The Rebbe explained um, that the Rebbe is explaining the first chapter. The Rebbe brought down that in this first chapter of the Maimer of Basi Begani, the Rebbe brings down that it says Basi Legani, that the Iker Shechina B'tachtoinim Haiso. So he explains over here that why betachtonim? Because nisava kodesh baruch hu liyis lo yisbarich did a betachtonim. Hashem wants a dwelling place in the lower world. That's why the Iker Shechina was betachtonim. Uh, but then the Rebbe explains in the Maimer that how do you make the dira betachtonim? The person works hard, especially skafia v'ishapcha. You make the dira betachtonim. And also the other point is that what kind of an oir do you bring down? You bring down the oir which is higher than having a connection to the world. The Rebbe is going to explain now why are these details of person makes the dira betachtonim, that it's the work of the person is kafi v'isapcha. And the Iker Shechina, why is it important to explain? We're trying to explain Bosi Legani that the main Shechina was in the Tachtoinim. We should say the answer is because Hashem wants a dwelling place B'tachtoinim. That's why the Iker Shechina was B'tachtoinim. Why do we have to explain both of these other nyonim, that it comes through the work of the person and also through the tachtonim, and also that you're mamshir the level of the world, an oil which is higher than the illness. The Rebbe explains that in the Iker Shechina b'tachtonim ha'isa, you're saying two things here. You're first saying Iker Shechina, so in other words, you're not just talking about Shechina. So we have to explain what's Iker Shechina. That's the oil which is shaykhis to the oil. So we also have to explain why betachtoinim, that it's the work of the tachtoinim. Let's look inside. Tzarich lahavin. So we need to understand this. The l'chayra hatam al zeh. It would seem what's the reason why the main Shechina was betachtonim? Why was the main Shechina in the bottom, over here in the lower world? Seems like the reason is because Hashem desired to have a dira betachtonim. So that's why the main Shechina was here, because of the tachtonim. Uman negeya kan levayer. So what is it connect over here to explain? Why do we need to explain over here? Shasiyas hadira tzricha liyos al yidei avodas ha'adam. That how is this dira, that dwelling place for Hashem, made by the work of the person? Why do we need that explanation? ושהאבוידו שעל יודו נאסיס הדירה היא האבוידו דיסקפיה וסמכה. The Maimer explains that what is the avoida through which the dira is made up, that is through the avoida of iskafia, subduing and turning around. What is that important? We want to just say that the Shekhinah is in Tachtoin because that's what Hashem wanted his dira. But the dira is made through the work of the person, Skafi Vishapcha. How does that connect to the Medrash on the Basi Legani, which just says that the Iker Shechina b'tachtonim? And the second point that the Maimer explains that you bring down the level of higher oil into the world, which is higher than the world. B'shal yidei avodah zu, through this avodah of iskafia and ishapcha, hu hamshochas ha'oil shalamayla mishaychus lo'ilamis. You draw down the light, which is higher than having a connection to the world. So why is that important? So the Rebbe says we can say the explanation. Why do we need to explain this? The b'maimer hamedrash iker shchina b'tachtonim hoyso, in the saying of the medrash that the main shchina was here in the lower worlds, we're basically saying Shnei Inyonim. There's two parts to it. There's two ideas that we're presenting in this statement. First of all, we're saying is Hamaila the Tachtoinim Legabe Elyonim. We're talking about the advantage of the lower as measured relative to the upper. Because you're saying Hashem wants a dwelling place in the lower, in the Tachtoinim, meaning that there is an advantage in the Tachtoinim that Hashem wants it, the Tachtoinim, and not as opposed to the Elyon. Shebohem dafke hoiso iker shchina. In them, in the Tachtoinim, specifically was the main shchina. That's one thing. Number two, what we're saying is that it was the Iker Shechina, was Dargas HaShechina Shahoisa B'Tachtoinim, that what was the level of the Shechina that was B'Tachtoinim, Iloi Shechina Stam, Ela Iker Shechina. It's not the Stam, just the Shechina. We don't say the Shechina B'Tachtoinim Hoisa, but the Iker Shechina B'Tachtoinim Hoisa. So we're saying to Unyonim, we're talking about the advantage of Tachtoinim, and we're talking about a Gilui, about a Shechina, which is called Iker Shechina. So he says, Unyonim shebehamaimer bepeirik hodishe. And the ideas that is in the Maimer, in this first chapter, Hem biur al shnei Unyonim elo, they are an explanation on these two ideas of the Tachtoinim, the Maila, and the Iker. This that he desired, that the revelation of godliness below, which is the Dira B'Tachtoinim, when he says that it takes place through the work of the person, it's important. Why? Because that madgish, that emphasizes Mailas HaTachtoinim, the advantage of the Tachtoinim. That's why it is the work of the Tachtoinim that brings down, so that it's not just that the Gilui, the revelation is in the Tachtoinim, but it's actually the Tachtoinim that bring down the Gilui, the noise of Lozeh. Shenisave shehadiro. In addition, that the desire of Hashem wants that the dwelling place should be in the Tachtoinim. This Ave, the desire was also Shagam Asiyas Hadiro Tiyali de Avodas HaTachtoinim. That also the making of that Dira should be through the work of the Tachtoinim. So that they are the ones, the Tachtoinim, the advantage of the Tachtoinim is that the Eibishter wants them to be the ones that are making this Dira. So why is that so important? Because if they make the Dira, they become the vessels for the Tachtoinim are the ones that making the Dira, they become the place where the Dira takes place. And they're vessels to receive the godliness. Through the fact that the revelation of godliness in the Tachtoinim takes place through their service. that they are the ones that are doing it. Heim kelim lahagilui. They become vessels to that gilui. They become the vehicles to be able to receive that gilui. Now, there is that they accomplish it, but it's not only that the Tachtonim accomplish it, but because they have to fight for it, and because it's Gilui, Iskafia, and Ishapcha, that they work, that means that it is done. The reason why they have to Iskafia is because that's because they're not really vessels, and they have to push themselves. We say to Mizu. More, it's not just that the Tachtonim are doing it, Shahagilui, Nimshach Bahem, Umitzad Inyan HaTachtonim Gufa. That the reason that they get the Gilu comes to the Tachtonim is not because they get it from above, but it's because of their level. And how? Umoisif, and he adds, Sha'avoida, Shal Yoda, Nasis Hadida. So he said, what is the Avoida? Not just saying that is their Avoida, but what is the Avoida that brings about the Dira? He Avoida, the Iskafia, the Ishapcha, is the work of Iskafia, Ishapcha. Why is that important? Ki al Yideiz Mudgash Oid Yoser, because through saying and explaining that it's the Iskafia and Ishapcha, it's even more emphasized shehagilu shenimshach b'hatachtonim u'mitzad inyonom, that the revelation that comes to the tachtonim is from their perspective, is their area, because they have to fight for it, which means they're tachtonim. That's why they have to struggle. So that's emphasized by telling us that it's through Iskafia v'Isapka. Which means the noisef lazeh shahagilu shenimshach bahem hu al yidei avodoso. Besides, in addition, how do they get the gilui? Through their work of the tachtonim, the actual work, the actual work, this that they bring it down, it's a work is because they're tachtonim, that's where they got to struggle, that's where they have to iskafi ishapcha. So they do the work, and they do the work. What kind of work? A work which, because they're tachtonim, they have to iskafi and ishapcha. So that's the explanation of the advantage of the tachtonim, this one area of the saying of the Medrash, Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu dir b'tachtonim. And then the second part that the Maimer explains, that we bring down the Kula Alme B'Shava, we bring down the higher light, Zeh shehamshocha shal yidei ha'avodah v'yiskafia v'yishabcha. And the fact that we draw down through the work of Iskafia v'Yishabcha, who hamshocha sa'orshu b'kula almin b'shava, that we bring down the light which is in all worlds equal, Ubir al haloshin, that explains the language of the Medrash of Iker Shechina b'tachtonim haisod, to explain why does it say that the Iker Shechina was b'tachtonim. We explain that this is the higher level of the level of Kul Alma B'Shava. The Mevur b'Mokem Achar, as explained elsewhere, she'ikar Shechina hu oir shelamaylo ma'olam, is the main Shechina is the light which is higher than world. Basically, the Rebbe explained the order of the Maimer of the Friedrich Rebbe. What the Friedrich Rebbe is coming to explain, the two parts in the saying of the Medrash, why Iker Shechina b'tachtonim hoysa, was because Nisava HaKadosh Baruch Hu li is l'idira b'tachtonim. That's why it is important to explain that it is the tachtonim. Not only does it come down to the tachtonim, but it is the tachtonim that bring it down through their work and in a kind of a work which is unique to them because they're tachtonim, and that's why they have to have this kavyi v'ishapcha. This emphasizes the part that is tachtonim, and then to explain why it says in the Medrash Iker Shechina b'tachtonim, he explains that we're talking about the light that comes down is the light which is higher than connecting to the world, which is an oir, which is Bekula Almin B'Shove. That explains the second part. So that's really explaining Iker Shechina b'tachtonim hoiso that the Medrash says. The Rebbe says these two pratim is also just in the language. That's in the Medrash over there. It says Iker Shechina b'tachtonim hoiso. But the explanation that the previous Rebbe brings into the Maimer, Nis'ava HaKadosh Baruch Hu liyas lo yizborech dira b'tachtonim, in that sentence, it doesn't use the word Iker Shechina, but the fact that we say that he wants a dira and he wants a b'tachtonim, this sentence itself also, just like the Iker Shechina b'tachtonim, also explains these two aspects, the sentence of the saying of our sages, Nis'ave HaKadosh Baruch Hu liyas lo yizborech dira b'tachtonim, also brings out these two ideas that, first of all, that it's in tachtonim, and the fact that it's a dira loi brings in the idea to the Iker Shechina, to the Shechina that is higher than the world. The Rebbe explains this now, Gimel. Lahoisiv, to add the Shnei Inyonim Hanal, these two above mentioned ideas. Muvonim Gam, Meloshin Razal, Nis'ave Chulu Dira b'tachtonim. That's understood also from the language of our sages of blessed memory that we say Nis'ave Udire b'tachtonim. And the Rebbe emphasizes from the word Nis'ave, because the Eibishter had a desire, this idea, the Rebbe is going to explain that is a taiva. He had a desire, means that it wasn't irrational. There are other rational explanations why Hashem created the world. But those explanations are in the rationale. They are in the level of giluyim, of reasons why the world was created. But when we say nis'ave, that he had a desire, he had a taiva, that's the level of Atzmus, as the Rebbe will go on to explain, that this represents a higher level, a desire in the Atzmus, in the essence, to come down to Tachtoin. And the idea is the Bezoyhar ube'etz Chaim, in the Zohar, and Eitz Chaim Isa, over there we find Sheyeshnom Taimim al Brias Ha'olomis. There are reasons. It's not Hashem had a desire. Had a desire means there's no reason. No, there are reasons over there in Zohar and Eitz Chaim. There are reasons for creations of the world. The Bezoyar, the Rebbe brings down, for example, in Bezoyar Isa, in the Zohar we find Shahatam who begin the Yishtema Oidu Unlei, that the reason the Eibishter wanted to create the worlds is because he should be known to them. Who would know the Eibishter if there is no worlds? That will elaborate a little bit later more about this. But in the Zohar, basically gives a reason. The Eibishter created the world so that there will be someone begin, because the Yishtema Oidu Unle, we should know him, that the world should know him. Who's going to know the Eibishter? So we need a world. Eitz Chaim, he said, Eitz Chaim is another reason. That the reason for creating of the world is b'chidei, in order she is galus shleimus keichosov upuloisov, so that it should reveal the wholesomeness of Hashem's powers and acts. that the Eibishter can create also a world. So if the Eibishter didn't create a world, then these powers would not be revealed. So in order for these powers to be revealed, the Eibishter needed to create a world. So we find that there's reasons for creations of the world in the Zohar and the Eitz Chaim. And yet, in this Maimer, it says, Nis'ave, he had a yearning, Ube Maimer Azal, Hanal Isa. But in the above mentioned statement, we find that the Bria Soilom is Hoiso, that it says here it was created, it was Lefi, Shenis'ave HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Liyas Lo Yizbarech Dira B'Tachtoinim. Because Hashem desired to have a Dira B'Tachtoinim, not of the reasons that's brought in the Zohar and Eitz Chaim, but it was a taiva. The inyan Nis'ave Hulumaylam B'Tam. When we say Hashem desired, they had a taiva, that means that it's not rational, it's not a reason, it's higher than reason. Ubelashoin Admur Hazok, and to use the language of the Alter Rebbe, if a taiva is kinkashe, there's no question why you want it. It's just a desire. Hainu she'inyan hataiva u'b'mokrim, meaning the desire is in a place, a darga, she'ein shayich shom kushi, over there you can't, doesn't apply a question. It's higher than seichel. So why does it say that it was a taiva when in the Zohar and Eitz Chaim we find reasons for it? So the difference is depending on the level of creation. Creation mitzad giluyim has a reason. Creation mitzad atzmos is a type. It's known, the explanation. The bezoyar ube'etz chayim medaber be'inyan briyas ha'olam. Olam over there, he talks about creation as the worlds, kemoshi mitzad b'chinas ha'giluyim, as it is from the perspective, from the side of revelations. The revealed part of godliness has a reason. Since we're talking about revelations, even if it should be the greatest giluyim, they are defined. There's some definition. They have their boundaries. So then, so when you have a desire to do something, that is because the matter that you want, that you are wanting to do, fits to that definition, which is the tam. The tam is the rationale, that's the boundaries, and that's the logic. So your want is associated with your tam. But in the above saying of the sages, he talks about creation, which is from the atzmus. The kivon she'enoi mugdar b'shum geder. Since atzmus isn't defined, isn't boundary, it has no boundaries. So the rotzin lebriyas ha'olam, so the desire for creating is not defined by any rationale. It's not because there is some advantage in creation, because that would mean a reason, and the reason is a definition, but there's no definition in the atzmus. He desired l'mayla mitah. It's higher than reason. That's the point where it comes from. Okay. We explained now, taiva is atzmus. Reasons is giluyim. It's defined. Atzmus is not defined, so it's a taiva. So just like the nis'ava hu ba'atzmus is in the atzmus. Kam ha'inyan shum is'ava love. So what is it that he wants? What is it that Atzmus wants? Ushiyeh loy dira b'tachtonim. He wants a dwelling place. When we say the word a dwelling place is a place where the person lives with his whole essence. The inyan dira wal derech diras ha'odom. The idea of a dira is similar to a dira of a person. She'atzmus ha'odom dor b'hadira. It's the essence of the person that lives in the dira. So that means, in other words, Hashem's desire, Atzmus desire, is to have a dira, which means so that Atzmus would dwell in the dira, though he should be in the dira. Hainu shebetachtoinim tia hamshochas begilu ha'atzmus. That in the tachtoinim there should be the extension and the revelation of Atzmus should be in the tachtoinim. That is what the idea of Dira B'Tachtonim. So we see that in the sentence of Nisava HaKadosh Baruch Hu Liyis L'Dira B'Tachtonim, we're actually talking about the Iker Shechina, like we said in the sentence in the Medrash, that we're talking about a taiva. A taiva is an atzmus. And this type of asmus should come down in a way that dira, that it should be a dira, and then this is in tachtonim. Hine yodua, so it's known. How do we know that there is a taiva? Because the reasons that we mentioned before from the Eitz Chaim and the Zohar, the Eibishter could have just created the higher worlds. He didn't need Tachtonim. Because the Eibishter created Tachtonim, we know that Hashem's desire is in the Tachtonim. It's known, the proof that the reason for the creation of the world, he desired l'mayla mehatam. It's not just the reason, but there is a higher than the tam. In order for this should be known, the Eibishter, just Yidiyas Elokus, or your maspik bisabus oilum Yisrael yonim, it would have been sufficient creating the upper world. Oilum ha'atzilus, the world of Atzilus, oilum Yisrael in Sof, shalom oilum Atzilus. The worlds of Ein Sof higher than Atzilus, that would be enough for Hashem to be known. He didn't need the Elomas Tachtoinim, so that means that there's another reason. If it's only B'dei Yishtamoiden, so they should have not created the world of Biyah. He should have stayed with the Elomas Ein Sof. And on the contrary, not only would it be accomplished there, Ikara Inyan the Yishtamoiden lay. Where do they know the Eibishter? It's been specifically not this world. We don't know Hashem. The idea of this that we know and we grasp godliness in the lower world, which is which is even in the spiritual worlds of Biyah, we'll see, and it's even lower in this physical world, but in Elam Irak Bahametzias Delakus, Veloy Bahamehus. Over there, we only know in the spiritual level of Biyah the existence of godliness, but we don't understand what is the essence of godliness. That's even in the spiritual levels. For sure, in this physical world, we don't even feel the existence of Lakus. So if the Eibishter wants to create the worlds for him to be known, he could have just left it with the Olamais, with Atzilus, the Ein Sof. He didn't have to create anything lower than that, because in this lower world, we don't even get it really in the Olamais Biyah. So it's really accomplished in the upper world. This is the reason of creation of the world that comes because you should know it. The Izgalu, Shleimus Kechosim, or Loisov, the reason that the Eibishter's powers and activities should be revealed, Shebichdei Sheizgalu, Shleimus Kechosim, in order to accomplish that his power should be revealed, that he's able to create a Metzias that the Eibishter could do that, would have been sufficient by creating the upper worlds. The key one shegam because even the upper world, they're still an entity. And the way they are created in a way of ischatzus, of yesh me'ayin, they're brought into existence from nothing. That's even the upper world. They so since the fact that the Eibishter creates them, so that is the revelation of his power. That he creates something new. This is the revelation of the Eibishter's koyach. So he didn't need to create this world. He could have created just El Mesilyanim that already reveals his koyach. We can say even more than this. Not only would it be sufficient, but that's the main that where is the main revelation of his powers is dafke in the upper worlds. The key because since the way the lower worlds, are created, while the way it takes place is that godly power that creates them hides himself. So then in the act of this power, so in this act, it's actually not revealed. When an Eibishter creates biyah, it's not revealed the koyach because the Eibishter hides himself in the level of biyah. For sure, he does not reveal himself in this world, lower world. So this would not be gilui koyach as the reason. The obscurity of the power that creates is even more. So it turns out that in this world, we don't have the revelation of Gilu Kechesel. It is only in the Olam Mesilyanim. So Zeshen is Havu. So the fact is, these reasoning would not require creation of Biyah, Ruchnim, and Elam Hazah Tachtan. On the contrary, they are not accomplishing those goals stated in the Eitz Chaim and in the Zohar. So the fact that there's also spiritual and certainly from the fact that there is a physical, this world, which has no advantage on its own, the world, before you bring down godliness on its own, has no advantage. To use the language of the Alter Rebbe, it's a lower, there's nothing lower than it. So that is evidence. Now we know that the ultimate purpose of the creation is is not for a reason, because he wouldn't create this world if it was a reason only. But just as the Eibishter desired, that this world should be a dira for Hashem, for his atzmos. So here, basically, the Rebbe brings out that the reason needs to be more than the Eitz Chaim and Zohar that have a reason. They should know Hashem, reveal his koyches, because he wouldn't have to create this Olam Hazeh Tachtim. The fact that the Eibishter created Olam Hazeh Tachtim is a raya that is Nesabah. Since it's Nesabah, Nesabah is the level of Atzmos, and Atzmos comes down and becomes a dira for him b'tachtonim, as the Rebbe will continue later on. Okay, we'll leave it over here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.